Jeremiah is complicated. Can we just talk for a minute about the ridiculousness of telling somebody, don't cry, stop crying. You don't need to mourn anymore. This is how we know. See, when people try to tell me, oh, the Bible was written by God. No. Now you all know I happen to believe in God, but I also know that the scriptures were written by humans, maybe who were inspired by God. But that's the kind of thing that people say when they're trying to make themselves feel better about other people's discomfort. So can we just own that for a moment? Because that's important to acknowledge. That's important to acknowledge for ourselves and for others as we're trying to step into a new year, a new 5782, a new church year, new promises. When we move forward into a new year, we don't magically shed everything that's happened before. I saw somebody post online something about I was expecting more out of 2021 after 2020. And I said, well, 2021 didn't have a very good role model in 2020 to begin with, right? We build on what's come before. So I just want to own that piece. Here's Jeremiah, maybe, or whoever wrote Jeremiah, putting words in God's mouth. You don't need to mourn anymore. It's okay. It's okay. Well, it's not okay for Rachel, who's weeping for her children. And as we move forward into this new year, if you're feeling not entirely okay, that's okay. If you're feeling not entirely sure-footed, that's okay. It doesn't mean you've lost all hope or that we have to give up or that nothing good can come from the future. It just means that's where you are right now. Your feelings are valid. They are your feelings. So we, my people, Jewish people, we go through this every year. We reevaluate where we've been and where we're headed, and we start out again. And I use return a lot in the call to worship because we talk about shub, turning around or returning. Shub is the Hebrew word. You were expecting a Hebrew lesson today, right? And here it comes, shub, turn or return. We talk a lot about turning around and returning to. So we are examining what grounds us, what are we returning to, but also what do we want to shed. We don't have to carry everything with us. This Jeremiah reading, well, the book of Jeremiah was written for people in exile. People whose whole way of life had been turned completely upside down. So can you imagine living life in a way that you always expected and things were going on, and then, I don't know, let's say like a worldwide pandemic hits and it throws everything out of whack. And the way that you know how to do things, suddenly everything changes. And let's say also in the midst of that is there's a kleptocracy in the government that at the beginning of this, and you can't really trust what's going on. And even when a new government comes in, it's all new, and there are all kinds of roadblocks for that government. And in the midst of all that too, there's so much climate change going on that now every storm is a major event that causes havoc everywhere. It would be kind of like something like that, maybe, only with also having to leave your homeland and being chased out of where you live and having a whole new way of life there. So Jeremiah is written for a people who are at sea. They're lost. They've lost their footing. They're mourning. They're traumatized. And there's a lot of comfort in Jeremiah, but there is also some harsh self-examination in Jeremiah. How have you been treating each other? What have you been doing? It's a little bit like our own society. In the midst of all we're going through, we have to look at what is our own culpability in the whole world around us. And sometimes doesn't that just get a little bit heavy? Sometimes isn't it all a bit much? And if we bring it back down into a smaller sphere, we haven't lost, we sold, but we no longer have our church building home, right? We don't know where we're going to land. So in that sense, we are a bit like the Israelites. We don't have a physical home anymore. Where are we going to be? So they have that kind of anxiety too. And yet in the midst of this, God through Jeremiah is telling the people, I haven't forgotten you. I'm still here. You're still my people. And why is this important on Rosh Hashanah? Why is this a reading for the new year? Well, I think it's because we want a new start at the new year. We want to start fresh. But we come out of the new year, we come out of the old year sometimes traumatized, sometimes dealing with upheaval, and sometimes worried about how we're going to keep faith and hope alive in all of this. And here we are reminded, I will build you up and you will be rebuilt. Again, you will play your tambourines and dance with joy. Sing joyfully for the people of Jacob. Shout for the leading nation. Raise your voices with praise and call out, Lord has saved their people, the remaining few in Israel. It's about starting over. And the new year is about starting over. So what do we need to start over? Well, we do need to find a place to be, and our relocation team has been working on that, and the board has been working with the relocation team. And we have some finalists. And we need to be able to be safe together in order to meet together in a place that we choose. And we have a team that's going to make sure that it will be safe when we meet again. We have a team that put together the policy, and we have a team now that's going to be monitoring the situation to make sure that it's safe when we do meet in person, and will let us know when we can meet in person and how. And you'll be hearing more about that in the next several weeks. We need to continue to do the internal work that we're doing to discover more about ourselves and how we want to be the church in the world. And we need to continue to do the excellent work that we've been doing, out in the world. Justice work that we continue to do. We've made a commitment to living out the eighth principle. And so I expect this year we'll be putting energy behind that. Because we don't just talk the talk, we can walk the walk. And we need to figure out what it is that we can let go of. So in the next day or two, I'm going to go down probably to Monocacy Creek, that's nearest to me, and throw my old bread in the water and think about what I need to personally shed. And I invite you to do the same. I mean, whatever body of water is nearest to you, and think about what you want to let go of from the last year, but also not just personally, what can we let go of that we've been holding on to for too long? Are there ways of doing things that we've always done this way, but maybe aren't serving us well anymore? It's always worth thinking about and re-examining. And then, how do we want to work in the wider community? Because being a religious community is all well and good for being together. But the point of being a religious community is so that we can then go out and build the beloved community together in the wider world. How do we want to do that together? Now, if you're mourning, if you're weeping, that's okay. You don't have to be cheery all the time to do this work. It's not like mourning stops one day and cheeriness starts, and that's the only way we can go ahead. We're going to be talking a lot about resiliency this year. And one thing I know is that we can get a start on things even when we're not feeling like it's a whole new me yet. Like we've left everything behind, like we've broken free. We can start practicing. We can do stuff even when we're carrying the grief. And there are others around who can help us. That's part of being in community too. Now, I know we had hoped that by September we'd be together in person. I had really hoped that. And things change. And one of the ways we're keeping each other safe is by remaining separated physically at the moment. But we can still do things together, though physically apart. So I'd like you to think about ways in which we will be the church together this year. What will we do? How will we start 5782 off? Right. What will we do over the next 10 days to make things right? And how will we have a sweet new year? So I say to you, Lashana Tova, for a good year. Let's make 5782 the best yet. We can only go up from here. Lashana Tova, everyone.